that's been kicked in the nuts by fake news. Nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy.
Oh, yeah, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Really Real with Richie Redding. I'm Richie Redding. I'm feeling just Hulkamania-ish. I don't know what it is, dude. I saw myself with this shirt on. I just wanted to, hey, brother. Welcome to Really Real with Richie Redding. I, of course, am Richie Redding. And if you clicked on here wondering if this is going to be one of those days that you might learn something, I would say probably not. I get so sick of, I'm an absolute media junkie. Like, I consume so much news, and boy, do I just not feel like talking about it right now. But other than, the only thing that's fun right now is the Epstein thing that, I don't know if you saw this, that the jig is officially up. There's no more mystery left to if this was a honeypot run by the CIA and the Mossad anymore. Did you see this, Bobby? That somebody leaked his calendar to the Wall Street Journal, and dude, I think it's Christopher Burns. William Burns. I'm sorry. Yeah, he had multiple meetings with him in 2014, like way after he was already, a convicted sex offender. And and that's just the ones that were on the calendar, right? There was like 3 of them, and he said that his defense, and that was when he was deputy Secretary of State, and Burns said that he didn't know about his reputation, like. Anybody that's in any kind of sales, he was saying basically like he was about to segue into the private sector, and people with relationships in the financial world could have like been worthwhile for him to seek. If anybody that's ever tried to get a meeting with like a regional director of Wawa knows that the first thing anybody does when they get a cold call or some kind of message request is Google that person, and his is for sure coming up convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Like there's no way of, what do they even call that when they make 1,000 blogs to make somebody's like DUIs go away?
That is called search engine optimization.
That's SEO?
Yeah.
There's got to be another name for it.
No, I knew a girl who worked for one of the best of those in the country, and her whole job was writing fake blog reports about people. Like, so-and-so's a great person, so-and-so does well, and then that company had patented the Google, algorithm to figure out how best to bury things, so,
nice.
Even when it goes out of business, they have that.
How many of those would you have to write to make convicted sex offender not pop up when it's the first thing that happens when you Google fucking Jeffrey Epstein? But at any rate, between that and multiple long stays with friggin' former Prime Minister Ehud Barak staying at his place in Manhattan, it's up. Come on, we know what it is. That and then that. What the hell's his name? Nicky Tartaglione, that was his cellmate, that roughed him up a few nights before he killed himself. The guy that looks like an absolute freaking Marvel Comics villain. He looks like Thanos, and he murdered 4 people. And he just found out a couple weeks ago that his that the death penalty is off the table for him now, when it was before. So, congratulations to Nicky. But, all right, that'll be the end of anything of any kind of serious nature. And that's Richie Redding, promise. We had a gig. Old Bobby came for a gig with me this past weekend, and it was a lot of fun on Friday night in... wait, do I have my sound on also? Oh my god. Yeah, okay.
We did do the check pre-show.
No, but you didn't make sure I had both things. Yeah, I did tap that.
I feel like every week the checklist grows by one.
Yes. But yeah, we went to Gloucester City. If there's any comics watching that want to have Bobby on the road, it's really cool that he just shows up. He doesn't actually go with you on the road, which is like the whole funnest part of doing a road show, because he's got to chase down Wawa Puss somewhere in Pennsylvania. How'd that work out?
It worked out as planned. So, mission
Right.
accomplished. I don't want to give too many details away. She may be one of our 30 viewers, but mission
okay,
accomplished.
Bobby. Okay, Bobby. Well, if you're gonna bail on your boy on the road, at least empty them bowels. That's what we say here at Really Real. But I feel like I haven't seen you much at all in person. And when I saw you on stage, I see you close up. When I saw you on stage, I was startled by your lower body to upper body ratio.
Yeah, it's not good.
Well, I mean, look, you're a burly boy, no shaming here, but you've got dancer's legs.
I think that's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you could be on toe point for like a long time, just tippy-toeing around. But dude, so that town of Gloucester City it really is one of my favorite places to do comedy. It's a self-avowed shithole. They have no problem with me saying that. But like, I've got a 15-year relationship with the people in that room, basically. And so you need some kind of backstory for one thing that happened in there when Levy was talking about, like, you know, which one of you girls swallows, and the guy goes, "Oh, her mom advertises it." Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
So that girl's mom, who wasn't there during the pandemic, jokes aside, probably lost 500 pounds.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so when I went back on stage and I was like, "That's your mom's secret to losing all that weight," and the place went, "Oh!" It was because, like, that's basically their Jared from Subway, but before all the problems. And finding out that Jared just eats jizz. And that's it. That could be a good sketch, actually. Before and after. But yeah, all I did was suck 30 dicks a day. I lost 500 pounds. Look at me. But oh my god, dude, so many stories from that room. And and I promise you, dear listener, dear viewer, that we are going to close out the loop of my landlords. That is happening today. I know that some of you are keenly following the trilogy here. But
did you hear Richie's got a real estate podcast?
Yeah. Rental Nightmares with Richie Rudder. but there was this one time in there that, you know, so this is a different room than we used to do it in. It used to be at this place, Jack's Twin Bar, and it was consistently like the same 50 or 60 people that would show up, right? And somehow one show, there's this girl who's like, I was probably 32, so she's like 40, wearing way too much makeup, and she's like off to the right but front row, dressed like a hewer, and she's 6 feet tall with like 3 or 4 inch heels on. And for the whole show, she's like primping and preening and doing all this shit. Just like obviously needs attention, right? And after the show, she was super like aggressively, overtly sexual, and she gets in my face and like puts her tits in my face. I mean, like here, and she's like, "You're really funny. It's too bad you're not like a foot taller." And I go, "You used to be pretty hot. It's too bad you're not like 10 years younger." And this is like the most movie shit ever, and this is also before 2016 and the troubles there. I slap her on the ass and walk away. Right? And did not look back. Like, I happened to be leaving, didn't look back. And the next time that I'm going there, I'm like, I tell the comics that I'm with, Nathan McIntosh is one of them. I was like, dude, if that chick is there, it's on. Right? And I say if she's there and she doesn't have high heels on, it's on. So like as soon as we walk in, I see her there, look at her feet, like it worked, right? So I wound up talking to her after the show, and she's like, so she tells me what she does for a living. And she's like, yeah, it's weird, but, like, I watch porn for a living. Like, huh? Like, how? She's like, well, you know, like, in order to get that sticker on the front where it's like, you know, certified safe consensual porn or whatever, somebody has to actually watch every single frame. So for 8 hours a day, she has to watch porn, which is the most psycho job I can't imagine anything worse for your soul. And like, look, we've all put in a good hour straight, maybe an hour and a half or 2. You do not feel good about yourself after that. This broad's putting in 8 a day. Just psychotic to make sure that there's no underage stuff, no incest, and no blood or scat, right?
Jesus.
Yeah, and has to sign off. She has to put her like certification on the line that every single frame of this thing from play to finish is done. And this is the back in the days when there's still DVDs. So I see this as a way in. I'm like, cool, I'll come over and watch some porn sometime. And she's like, yeah, I like a very specific kind of porn. I was like, that's cool. Like, what do you like? And she's like, I like to watch
stuff I have to flag.
Yeah. It's what we call the no-no porn. But she goes, I like to watch really hot guys fucking. I was like, fucking, and she's like, each other. Like, yeah, probably not that into that, but it's like, and I'm like still trying to like keep this ball in the air, and she's like, well, look, if you want to hook up, we can, and I'm not like one of these crazy bitches that's gonna like text you constantly or anything like that. Like, you know, I just want to get my brains fucked out. And it's like, okay. So we go to her place. It's immediately just a math problem, right? That like, she's just so much. I'm 5'9" and I'm lying, right? And there's just so much leg that like, and it's like, and this chick like wants to be dominated, and it basically me dominating a girl that big comes down to her compliance. You know, it's like roll over, please. You know, so it's like just trying to get her legs like it was an MMA situation. Like trying to get her legs pinned back. I had to like put all my weight forward so that it's just like it's a leverage issue. It sucked, and then I like leave at like 2 a.m. and she calls me at like 2:10 and we talk the whole way home, which is already, it's like, you know, she's the chick that's not gonna, she's like, not gonna text you, not gonna call you. It's just whatever.
Why would I text you when we live together?
Yeah, right. So I'm home in like an hour and a half. I'm trying to get off the phone. And she goes, she's like, yeah, oh, that's better. She's like, she's like, yeah, I got to deal with my family tomorrow, and they're just crazy. And I tried to play it down. I was like, yeah, we all got crazy family, no big deal. She's like, yeah, but you know, my grandfather was the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan in Pennsylvania, and my uncles are both doing triple life for a murder beef because they were like really involved with the pagans, and their kids are like a whole thing. And I just completely shut down. And she's like, what's wrong? I was like, the thing you said. And she's like, what, the pagan thing? I was like, no, it was the other thing. She's like, hey, you mean the Klan thing? I was like, yeah, the Klan thing. And she's like, look, it's not like we were like in the Klan, but you know, when I was a kid, we would go to rallies and stuff, and we would do like events. And she tries to stick and move and like just like, you know, so what are you doing tomorrow? And finally I'm like, hey, you know, I got like a lot of black friends, right? Like most of my friends are black. And she's like, oh, no. I get it. I've got a lot of gay friends. It's like, bitch, what does the Klan have to do with gays? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I completely dead this thing, and she is of course texting me like crazy, right? And it's like it's 100 texts, and she starts constantly posting pictures after never having been there and just meeting the people that hang out at that bar. Starts posting pictures like every week with the owner of the bar's wife, who I know for a fact she was like, I don't know who that fucking chick is. So she's getting into her social circle, and like, but it's all clearly just targeted. And then finally she sends me this like barrage of texts like, hey, I don't know what your fucking problem is, but I know I'm a catch and you're a loser, so nice knowing you, dude, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The next time I do this show, so this is the third show, she's there, dead center front row. And the second I go up at my show, right, that I've been hosting this thing for 8 years or something at this point. The second I go up, she fucking turns around and starts doing her makeup. She's just trying to be like super sexy, but also at a certain point, you can only put so much fucking makeup. Like, this shit's not going to stick. Right? So it's like 10 minutes of her doing this goofy shit, never looks up once. And I bring out the next comic, and at that point, they used to do an intermission in this show. And I go over to her, and like, you could cut the tension with a knife. Like, everybody's like looking. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? And I go over to her at the intermission, and it's like, hey, I know what you're doing, and I don't like it. And this is my show, and if you keep this shit up, I'm going to embarrass you, and you're not going to like it. And she's like, and like, again, just like starts faking shit. So it's now put up or shut up time. Of course she sticks around. Of course she keeps doing this shit. And I forget how exactly I got into it, but this is how. Because I always used to do, at that room, I would tell a fucked up story before bringing on the headliner. And it was like, are you guys ready for Uncle Richie's story time? And like, they know this is going to be a thing with some fucked up stories. So it gets a big round of applause. Like, guys, 2 months ago, I was in this room, and I met this fucking chick. She was all right. She was too old, tall, way too old, tall, wore too much makeup, looked like a real fucking whore, right? And I tell the story so that everybody knows exactly who it is. Tell the story that I just told you, and then finally it was like, and then this bitch has the nerve to come to my show, sit in the front row, and put makeup on the whole fucking time, and make everybody uncomfortable at my show when we all know you're a Klan bitch. Klan bitch. Get the fuck out of here, Klan bitch. Right? I said, like, I'm literally clapping in this girl's face until they all start clapping too. And I was like, who's ready for your headliner? And I forget who the headliner was. I bring him up, and she gets up and fucking walks out in a huff and walked out of my life forever. How insane is that, though, dude?
That is incredible.
Yeah,
after the show, was there a burning cross out front?
Right, there's no lawns in Gloucester City. It wouldn't stick.
It's like the makeup.
Yeah, fucking unbelievable. Right. If you were on the car ride like a normal road dog would be, you would have also heard this story that. Me and Tate Winstead were talking about gigs that are just embarrassing to be at, and I had this thing one time that it was like this comic Howard G from Baltimore was at the Laugh House. Like, I featured, he headlined, and he asked me if I would come down and headline his room the night before Easter, and I've got friends down there, and I've got family there, and it was like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm gonna headline a show. Like, I'll have my, I'll bring everybody out for that. This sounds good. The first red flag for it was that the show started at like 8, and I was like, all right, I'll be there like 8:15, 8:30. He's like, I mean, you don't have to be there till like 10 if you want. I was like, 10. Like, are you actually starting at 9 or something? He's like, nah, we're gonna start on time, but I got a few comedians. I get there, and this thing is like a fish fry with literally 25 comics doing 5 minutes apiece. Like, it's just an absolute shit show. And my cousin, who's a dude that like I always looked up to as a kid, of course got there early with his wife and another couple, and they're in the very front row, right? So they've been there for ever by the time it's time for me to go up. But
Jesus was alive when they got to the show at this point.
Yeah. So the second red flag was that I got, and this is back in the days of like having a TomTom, right? Like for my GPS, and I go past this spot in a strip mall like 5 times and don't see any sign, and I finally call the guy. He's like, oh yeah, there's no sign. I'm like, cool. And I remember very distinctly that the place was called the Big Easy. Because the first thing that I said when I went on stage was like, oh man, I know why this place is called Big Easy, because it could use a Katrina, am I right? And, dude, so this thing was an absolute jailbreak from an insane asylum. That it was one crazy person after another. There's no stage light. The sound's fucked up. They're selling raffle tickets and fried whatever. Like, it's just a shit show. And they've all got their crazy person families there and shit. And I was like, I had a list running of like who I was going to make fun of for like before I went up. But like, every person deserved an equal amount of scorn and ridicule until the girl right before me goes up. And so they all have 5 minutes apiece. And in classic hoodroom fashion, she dances up there. But she danced her way up there for 3.5 of those minutes, and like but she had like a little bit of a wonky leg and shit, right? So she's wonky dancing, and she's like vigorously dancing, and she finally gets up there. She grabs the mic. She's like, "What's up, y'all? I just want to say, I need my inhaler, y'all. I need my." And somebody from her family runs up, shaking a fucking inhaler, and finally gives it to her. She's, give it up for yourselves for coming out. Right? So, by the time she's able to say anything, she's already getting the light. She hits the fucking, she hits the inhaler like 3 more times and gets out of there. Right? And at this point, it's gone from embarrassing to like, I'm just completely enjoying this train wreck with my friends. I'm still mortified that I've got family there. So like, after going up, it's like, give it up. Yeah, this place could use a Katrina. Like, I tell you what, everybody was great tonight, but give it up for that wheezing bitch we just saw, huh? That bitch could wheeze, boy. Like, and I do my whole set, and in between every joke, I'm like, just keep hitting this shit. Wheezy! Oh, yeah, it's really miraculous I never got jumped doing hood comedy shows, but so far so good, even though I have occasionally asked a girl to walk me to my car. Okay, but let's that's true.
And if you ever do get jumped at a hood comedy show, you know who to call. The blonde woman from the first story. If there's ever anybody who's going to have your back in that situation.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. Right. So we're on part 3 of 3 of the Jersey City. What do we call this trilogy? You have to be an asshole to be a landlord in Jersey City. Every guy named Angel is a nightmare. Somebody on Facebook asked me if there's another Angel in this one. I don't specifically think that there is, but let's see how old memory serves your boy Richie today, huh? So, okay, so when I last left you, I believe that I got the banker to agree to letting me move to the 3rd floor, right?
Correct.
We're living in apartment 2R, and after he sees my business card and realizes that he saw me on stage before, we smooth things out, and he says that I can move upstairs. So and he's like, so you can just start paying your rent right away. And after he agrees to it, I was like, well, dude, with all due respect, I'm still not paying the rent until we actually have like a working operation here, because I don't want to I want you to have an incentive. You can easily drag your feet on this thing, and I'm going to be screwed. So it turns out that the people that came and saw the place, and the guy that was Schultz's boy. How do I keep mentioning Schultz in this fucking episode, in these podcasts? The guy that was friends with him, he was like the advanced team for this company called Schuster Management. And Schuster buys the property, right? And they have the backstory. They know this whole thing that's happened and shit, right? And the people in 3R had already moved out. And, ooh, big day, we got their refrigerator because they moved out. And that's when it was like we were balling again, just getting Tostinos and pizzas and shit, having a freezer for the first time in my life, in my 30s, having a freezer. Really achievable things that had just eluded me thus far. And so they tell me, they're like, yeah, we're we're getting it fixed, so don't worry about it. And it was like, all right, cool. As soon as we move, as soon as we see something, I'll start paying you for 3R. Don't worry about it. And I told you that the whole thing was because of the heat, and like nobody in the building had sufficient heat, and they did. So they order the parts immediately. Like an HVAC guy, a real HVAC guy comes. That's not Jesus, the Guatemalan midget, which is redundant, and little people. And I see him while I'm there, or while he's there, the HVAC guy, and I was like, so what do you think, man? What happened here? He's like, dude, this is the biggest fucking shit show I've ever seen in my life. I was like, why? Like, what happened? He's like, so, when you set this up, like the whole goal is to have as little duct work as possible. So the unit was like in the middle of the apartment, and it was a bowling alley with the rooms on the outside. He's like, it should go up, straight over, and then down. Like ideally it would actually run down and then up, so you'd have heat coming out of the floor, but at the very least you want it in the ceiling, straight down. When bitch ass Ron, whoever he hired, Jesus probably, to put this shit in, for every single unit it went to the roof, out, all the way to the first floor, up, over. Right? So, like, the first floor literally had, like, 300 feet worth of ductwork per side that this little-ass unit has to pump through. Right? So it's just absurd. Like, just, it defies logic. It defies cost of, like, you just 10x the price of your own materials that you're going to have to put into this thing, right? So we and it's like, all right, cool, well, can't wait for you to get this thing in. And Schusser takes over, and they're like, and they immediately start pressing me for the rent, and it's just like, yeah, man, I just can't do that. And they're like, well, we're fixing it. It's like, I haven't heard anybody working it in weeks. So months and months go by before they actually get this thing fixed. And they're like, okay, good news, you can move in. So I move in, I drop off the rent check immediately, and the manager comes out. I think his name was Eric for some reason. Yeah, it was Eric. And it's like, it's an open office, and this dude came out, like, clearly looking to, like, throw some swagger my way. And he's like, yeah, so we looked through the reports, and we know the whole history of the place. And, so thank you for this check, but we're going to need all that back rent, or we're going to have to evict you. And I was like, wait, you think back rent since you guys owned it? And he's like, no, we need the back rent starting in, whatever the date was, which at this point is like 16 months, right? 17 months, something like that. I forget what the exact numbers of it were. And I was like, wait, you think I owe you that? He's like, we are the landlords. You owe us that. I was like, all right, I want to make something very clear. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into here. And if you try to evict me, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to win. And he's like, well, we'll just have to see. Like, all right, guess we'll have to see. So there's immediately things are happening in the new unit that, so like, bitch ass Ron had. Actually, no. So I think when I moved in, I changed the locks so that it wasn't bitch ass Ron's keys, and so they never had the keys to the door. And there was something that they had to look at, like, we had some kind of issue, and this chick Stephanie was the property manager, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be home. She's like, well, I mean, if we can let ourselves in, is that okay? And I was like, I mean, yeah, if you can, but like, I'm not on the master lock. She's like, okay, so we can let ourselves in? Like, yeah, okay. I come back home and the front door was crowbarred open. Like, I mean, dude, the frame, like, just fucking crowbarred this thing, right? And to the point that and they also never came back and fixed it. And so, like, if we're on the third floor, the top floor, if somebody opened the front door, that door rattled, even if it was locked, because they just messed up, like, the weather stripping, everything on this door, right? So, and then at one point, so this is a part that I left out of the first story, was that when, like, the week before we moved in, when we checked in on bitch ass Ron one time, he's down in the basement and Jesus is down there and he's installing hot water heaters, and two of them say real big in marker, trash. And when we moved in, there's like paint on two of them, like just fucking somebody just like put latex paint or whatever on two of them right around where it said trash. So wouldn't you know, our hot water heater isn't working great for some reason. And I keep calling, you know, like they keep sending somebody to just like reset it or whatever. And it was like, I think it was like tripping a circuit breaker, so the circuit would be turned off, and then I couldn't get the pilot relit. And after like 3 times of this in like 3 days, I'm just brick ass cold water. This chick, I call her back again, and I was like, yeah, it happened again. Like, I told you, this thing just needs to be replaced. And she's like, all right, I'm going to send somebody, Rich, but I got to tell you, we're investigating this, and if it turns out that you're turning off this hot water heater so that you can save money, this is going to come out of your end. You're going to have to cover this. I was like, you think that I think that a way to save money is to to turn it off so the water turns freezing, and then turn it back on after I wait for you guys for hours to come, sometimes a full day, and that's worth the expense. And she's like, I don't know, dumber things have happened, Rich. I go, Stephanie, I am positive that there is a moron on this call. And I'm absolutely certain that is not me. And there's just awkward silence for like 10 seconds. She's like, all right, well, I'll send somebody over. So instead of Jesus, they have the exact opposite of Jesus. That they have this guy, he had like an unpronounceable name, but he was a 6'10" stinking Slav that he was from Montenegro, and much like Jesus, he never had any of the right tools for a job, but he just did everything by force. Like there was a time where like there's something wrong with my sink was like leaking a little bit, and he like goes over to, it was like a bathroom sink, and he's like, what is wrong, and he just starts like shaking the shit out of it until it like falls off the wall. He's like, who's going to pay for this? I'm like, not me, motherfucker. You like what? You think I'm paying you for this? No. So it's just one thing after another with this place, and mind you, a lot of these other people have they're only one tenant rolled over or just left because they were just sick of the bullshit in this place. Everybody else at this point is just not paying rent, and and just trying to ride it out. So, are you there, Bobby? Bobby, are you okay? Are you okay, Bobby? to me.
Sorry, my phone fell. My bad.
Okay. What a tea break. So, I wind up after like a month of being in the new place. I get a summons. Me and Johnny both get one at the same time, and they all came at the same time, and everybody starts congregating in the hallways, and they're like, yeah, I guess we're gonna have to go. And I'm like, oh no, we're not going anywhere, baby, right? Because at this point I've got this binder. I'm still being a psycho. Like, I know the heat inspector by first name at this point. It's like yeah, come on in, so it got that. It also, this thing both of these I feel like this whole story is an example of why it's good that I've chilled out with time. And like, this is much more like Coxon Richie mentality of just the fucking. I've never preface all of this by saying I've never been more obnoxious than I was to these people, and man, did they deserve every bit of it, right? So as soon as the eviction threat comes in, I turn into basically a jailhouse lawyer, right? I'm talking every lawyer that I know. I'm talking to, and I'm calling the fucking like the Jersey City tenant relations and all this shit, and they're like, oh well, it sounds like it's a Marini case, and they tell me what that means and all this shit, and also I was emailing and sending them every time we didn't send the rent, or and also when I dropped off the check, I was sending them a request to see proof of my security deposit, because your landlord, like, that's your money, and the landlord is basically just like the custodian of it, right? And it has to go into a fund where they can show you proof that it exists. That, of course, was stolen by bitch ass Ron. But my dad told me immediately, because he used to be a property manager, or like had a company, and he's like, yeah, just because, he's like, if you buy a building that has tenants in it, if the old guy makes off with the funds, you still owe those people their security deposit. And in New Jersey, at least, if you request it and it's either 30 or 60 days, if they don't give you proof of it, then they owe you double. Right? So we go to, it's that, and then there's some other shit that happened too. It might spark in a second. But so we get to court, and this is now, yeah, it's probably like month 18, 19 of this whole thing. Like, it's so long that this shit had been going on. And
how many months have you paid rent for at this point? Just the one?
One or two, as long as I've been in 3R.
Okay.
Right? But I'm also like, I'm beefing up on this whole Marini case thing, and I'm all about just like showing my rent and all this shit. And my dad's like, he's like, yeah, I mean, you definitely have a case, and you can absolutely make a case that if you gave the other guy or the bank that money, then it never would have landed in the pocket of Schuster. So, it's unreasonable of them to do that, and you didn't have heat the whole time. But what if the judge, orders them to fix the heat, and then your heat is fixed, and you have to pay all the back stuff? And I was like, well, it is fixed, but that was an apartment 2R. And it like hit us both at the same time. Like, wait a second. They're trying to evict me from unit 3R for rent that wasn't paid to Unit 2R. That's a different address. That's a different lease. That's an entirely different property. And it was just this beautiful mind moment of like, oh shit, right? Like, oh, it's on now. So the whole Marini case and all that stuff, now doesn't matter at all. So I go in thrilled about to be in court, right? It's like, and I've still got this big ass binder and all that shit, and we were last, and everybody else just gets their dick kicked in like 2 minutes flat. Like they go in because it's like the pretrial arbitration shit, you know, and is that moron Stephanie is in there, and with the arbitrator, and it's literally they're all in and out in like 2 minutes flat, and it's like you have to get out within. I think they give them 2 days or some shit. I don't know. It was a jiffy, and the it comes our turn, and it's like, hi, how you doing? You know, Richie Redding, damn glad to meet you. Sit my big ass book down, and so the thing that I had that they knew that I was going to talk about was the security deposit, because I kept asking them about it, like, you know, when in advance of signing the contract. I was like, yeah, but I still need proof that you guys have my security deposit. So another beautiful mind moment that I had like a day or two before the trial was that the trial. Yeah, to me, this shit was a trial, dude. It was the trial of the century, goddammit. So this chick Stephanie, she put on the lease, on the contract, it was rent, like, you know, $1,500 a month, security deposit $0, and which was to say I don't owe them a security deposit, they don't owe me one, right? And so we get in there, and it's and Johnny's just like, he's just along for this ride. He's my roommate, he's a great dude, but like, and he's just like, fuck man, I hope we don't have to like pay some back rent. Like, no, we got this. And it's finally like go time, and she says her piece first, and she's like, yeah, they owe 18 months rent or whatever it was because blah 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 blah. And it's like, all right, well, here's what I have to say. This is a Marini case, first of all, and here's the heat inspector that's been here, you know, every day for a year, once a week forever. And, you know, it's insufficient heat, and we don't have to pay the rent because of that and you're legally obligated to fix it. But none of that matters because you are trying to evict us from the wrong apartment. And she's the guy's like, wait, what are you talking about? And I tell him the 3R 2R thing, and he's like, is this true? Are you trying to collect rent for a completely different property? And she's like, and like she's like picking up the phone and like calling that dude Eric. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, I guess that's yeah, I guess we have to. Okay, yeah, I guess we just have to let this go. And I was like, oh, no. We're not letting anything go. We're still not done here. Because you owe us, you know, it was like, you owe us $3,000 plus, because you guys have waited so long, it's actually $8,000 because there's a $5,000 kicker because you have never given us any proof of our security deposit. And she's like, no, read your contract. Look at what it says. I was like, oh yeah, you mean when you tried to pull a fast one on me and it says that there's your security deposit? She's like all proud of herself. I was like, Stephanie, what did I tell you? You're a moron. How can you forget you're a moron? Here's what this actually means. It means I don't have to have any kind of security deposit to legally live in this property, but you assholes still owe me double the security deposit that I originally paid. I've got this fucking canceled check to show you, and there's the $5,000 kicker. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to win. And there's again this like, and it's like, all right, well, we're willing to completely walk away, and we're going to drop everything. So we look forward to having you as a tenant. And I was like, yeah, I look forward to living here. Thank you. We leave. I go immediately downstairs to the small claims court, whatever it was. Fill out the paperwork for the 3 months plus the 5K, or sorry, the 2 months plus the 5K. Get my little copy and send one to them, and like a week later, I get a call, and it's like, "Hey, Rich, this is Eric at Schuster. Little confused here because we said we were gonna walk away from any attempts at eviction, and we were good." I was like, "Eric, what did I tell you the first time we ever met?" And there's a beat. I was like, "I said if you tried to evict me, I'm going to sue you and I'm going to win. And now I'm suing you and I'm going to win." Right? So fucking obnoxious. So it's like 3 weeks later or so that we get this court date, and it's totally just liar's poker. But at this point, I don't have anything to lose because like there are these rules that like they can't. They're not allowed to like have a retribution eviction. All I have, as long as I'm paying, everything's fine, right? And wait, but hold on. Before that, I do have to give a shout out to Vanessa, the awful Puerto Rican neighbor downstairs that had the one that had the whatchamacallit, the puppy mill down the street. They're trying to get in. They're just like assessing, what needs to be done with all these apartments, but they can't get hers open. And it turns out that they had installed a steel door, and they like triple bolt locked this thing on the way out. And they finally get this thing like cut down, and they go in, and these scumbags stole everything, including the kitchen sink. The countertop was gone. The oven was gone. The microwave, gone. They took the kitchen sink. There was just empty cabinets. And like they took like wires out of the walls. They gutted this place. But like it was so crazy because it was this retribution, I guess, for getting evicted from a place that they legitimately didn't pay the rent for as long. They didn't pay it as long as we did. Like, if you have to walk away from that, like, dude, you won already. So they just went out with the biggest FU you ever heard of, right? But so anyway, I'm getting ready for the real trial of the century now, right? It's like it's go time, and I was actually kind of nervous about it, and then it just so happened that the night before I'm at Gotham and I run into Vince August. And if you don't know Vince, he's a comedian who's a former New Jersey state judge, and only like 3 years before had stopped being a practicing judge, and he was still an attorney. And I run the whole thing past him, and he's like, "Look, they're gonna try to intimidate you. They're gonna try to get you to back down. At the very least, you walk out of there with 2 months rent. But if this is my court, you're getting the 2 months rent and the $5,000. Bring your whole thing. It's a slam dunk because you can show that they were acting capriciously this whole time." And it's like, all right, bet. So we get there, and it's they basically send Legally Blonde as their attorney. It's fucking Elle Hollywood or whatever her name is, and it's some very young, cute chick that we try to have like. She wants to talk before we even go to the arbitrator. I tell her what my line is and that I'm not backing down. She's like, "That is a windfall. That is an absolute windfall. I will not let you have that." I was like, "You don't have any say in this. Like, it's like I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to go and talk to the judge." And so the arbitrator's whole job is to try to get you to back down, right? And he's like, well, I've never heard of anything like this. Of like just the whole thing. He's like, I've never even, because I gave him like the 10-minute version of the story, and just how many times they fucked us, and just how many off ramps there were before we got here, and how many, and I showed them how many requests I had for the security deposit, and the fact that I was like, oh, and his moron property manager tried to dupe us into them not owing us a security deposit, right? And he's like, all right, well, if this goes to the judge, the only question that he might have is, would anybody have the expectation if you're going to sign a lease that there would be a security deposit? He's like, 1,000%, yes. He's like, and how much would that be? He's like, 1 month's rent. And I was like, yeah, but that's not what the paper says, right? And you guys, like, I didn't try to pull this fast one, you did. And we can bring in the arbitrator from the other thing, and he can attest to how happy this chick was when she told me that she pulled this thing over on me before I told her she was a moron. And I was like, so, let's do that. And he's like, all right, well, there's some risk here. There is some risk. So, I feel like, he's like, I would not go to court with this if I were you. And I was like, and they're all trying to get us to back down from it. And I was like, look, I'm a comedian. I work from 8 p.m. to midnight. Johnny's a bartender. He works from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. We have nothing to do. Absolutely nothing other than to sit here in this court in order to prove a point for the little guy and win this case. And when I met this guy, what I told him is that I'm going to sue him and I'm going to win. So, and I said it so many fucking times, right? So finally they huddle and they come back with, and I was like, oh dude, I would actually love to run up your legal bill. So, she's got to be billing you at least $250 an hour. Like, if you want to spend $10,000 to not spend $5,000, that's fine by me. But I'm here. I'm ready to rumble, dude. So they asked for the room, and they finally come back, and they're like, okay, we owe you your security deposit plus an additional month, and we're willing to settle for $2,500 additional dollars. And me and Johnny go to talk, and I was like, do we fucking risk it and keep going for it, or do we press our luck? And he's like, dude, I'm gonna get out of here so fucking bad, man. I would have paid this shit like 6 months ago. It's like, all right, you got a deal. Right, so we wind up getting out of like a year and a half's rent, plus an additional month kicker, and then an additional like month and a half. It's 2 months shy, 3 months shy of being 2 years of not paying rent for just sheer tenacity. And it was very funny. At one point they were all like, why didn't you guys just move? Like, because fuck you, that's why. It's like, if it was so bad, why don't you move? Like, nah. That's not the game. I'm a cockroach, baby. I can live for free any goddamn where. So, yeah, so I wound up living there for like another probably 2 years or whatever. But that's the full story arc of from Angel to bitch ass Ron to Schuster management, but the wheel keeps turning. So this is nuts. Okay, so I've got a buddy that bought a house in up in the Jersey City Heights. Actually, no, he didn't buy the house. He rented, and he had moved. He was psyched about it. He moved in, and immediately things started being kind of shoddy. He calls me and he's like, "Hey man, what was bitch ass Ron's last name?" And I tell him. He goes, "Oh, fuck." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Bitch ass Ron is my landlord." Like, no way. He's like, "Yeah, dude. He must have been able to keep a property or two, and somehow he's still in the game." So he winds up on the same fucking circus with broken appliances, just every bit of it. He tapped out because he's a pussy, and he was there with his girl. So girls aren't putting up with that shit. But so with Schuster, I had to like threaten to sue them somehow to get my my security deposit back. And then things and it ended, and it was like, all right, I'll never see these motherfuckers again. They have a major presence in Jersey City. They actually have a bunch of like the luxury buildings now, and the one in the Heights, what I do believe was an anomaly, and they didn't know what kind of piece of shit they got themselves into. But we found, because of the flood here, we find this new place 2 blocks away. It's dope, like pumped about it. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, this isn't Schuster Management, is it?" And she's like, no, it's privately owned and blah, blah, blah. But next door is, and the one behind you is. After signing the lease, find out that the place was built by Schuster. And they then sold it into condos and is now privately managed by somebody, by like the condo board or something like that. It was like, oh my God. I just got back on this wheel, dude. So
the good news is somewhere at Schuster, alarm bells are going off and they're like, Redding is back.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I feel like it's, there's a famous Churchill saying that I took far more out of alcohol than it ever took out of me. I took a bigger chunk out of Schuster's ass than they took out of mine. But so as of July, I'm back, baby. And, folks, thank you so much. We're officially, I have it on good word that Bobby has figured out podcast technology, so that's exciting. Come and see me. I'm in New York City all weekend. I'm at Gotham Friday, the Stand Saturday, the Cellar Sunday. Yeah, come out to a live show. Love to see you guys out there. Thank you so much for supporting us. Do things. Tell people or whatever. I don't know. I need to get an autistic kid that likes making clips. If you are touched and you want to make very little money, little to no money, that is my promise. Clipping out this show and like making it do things with the shoots and the pipes of the internet. You are very much welcome to do so. But I really do appreciate everybody that's watching, listening, and sharing and commenting. Even though half of your comments are trolling me at this point, it is engagement, and the YouTube gods smile upon that. And I'm going to stop. My name is Richie Redding. That's really real.
A world that's been kicked in the nuts by fake news. Nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one Maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy. I'm just going to cover all of the dumbest stories that